Greetings. Welcome to our next segment of Net Plus Services. We are reviewing Miro as presented to us today by representatives from Carnegie Mellon University. My name is Gyenis, and I work in the Net Plus program at Internet 2. And I'll be joined today by Matt D'Amelio from Carnegie Mellon University and Judy Brooks, also from Carnegie Mellon University. We're excited to have these two representatives from higher ed in our community to speak to us about their experience using Miro. And to get us started, I'd like to start with you, Judy, in terms of your role at Carnegie Mellon and how you have found Miro to be useful and what type of challenges has it solved for you in your role over the past, few years? I'd love to hear about your journey.
Okay, sure. So I'm in the office. I'm in the Eberly Center for Teaching Excellence and Educational Innovation. And in my role there, I do a lot of vetting of the tools that instructors want to use in their teaching and learning. So for the courses that we deliver. So the Eberly Center is sort of a hub for vetting and helping faculty to use the educational technologies effectively. So as you can imagine, during COVID, that became a big, lots and lots of tools coming in, requests for tools. And one that surfaced and was really very much, I'll guess, pushed from some of our faculty in certain disciplinaries is Miro. So Miro does a number of things for certain disciplines that really maps onto their face-to-face. And when these faculty were transitioning to online, they just could not find a single tool that would fill this gap like Miro does. And so those disciplines tend to be architecture, design, human-computer interaction. And there were certainly others, but they are the heavy hitters. They're the ones who really use this tool. And they use this to support things like performing design studio critiques, providing student feedback during those critiques between students, by the instructors as well, supporting student teams in project work, and also the individuals in just really making sense of materials and information. And so there was no singular tool to support them like Miro did in a lot of these in-class interactions. And so that was the tool that they identified and championed as filling a significant gap in their teaching and learning toolkit. Now, did you want to follow up, or did you want me to continue on that?
Yeah, I was just curious, beyond, I guess, those departments, are there other parts of the university that could benefit from this being a Net Plus service, for example?
Yes. So it does go beyond those particular departments. And one might also ask, does it only operate in the remote context, or does it work in the face-to-face when we're back to face-to-face? And the answers from the instructors is yes, they continue to use this tool in their face-to-face courses, right? Capstone courses are one like that. It's a key place where students engage with external clients. And this tool is very helpful in that regard. And similarly for faculty, it's a way for them to collaborate with colleagues external to the institution in different, their disciplinary colleagues in different types of ways, including interactive workshops that they're providing. So again, lots of use cases, and the ways we think that this tool is, that the Net Plus service might help this tool is that, or our provisioning of this tool, is that I think we're hoping that it will become more affordable is one thing. That way we can assure ongoing access for educational purposes at CMU. And we anticipate more faculty and students at CMU and its various campuses then would want to have access to this tool. So other disciplines like engineering, humanities, the business, and a variety of others have very similar types of interactions that they would create. And so that this tool is well suited for. So that is beyond that core discipline. It is also extending what those core disciplines really want to do with the tool. And then we think extending that to the institution as a whole is an important aspect. And we also see a network effect that we think the Net Plus service would potentially provide that helps to manage the higher ed interests in what Miro provides, helping to guide improvements over time and stability and security of the tool for its use in higher ed teaching and learning context in particular. There's a lot of functionality that I didn't speak to that I can speak more specifically to if it helps people to make decisions about this. But I'll leave it at that for now, unless you want me to expand on things.
I would be interested to know, I mean, have you spoken to colleagues at other institutions that are using Miro? Have you had that opportunity, or is that something, you know, that is really kind of missing and you think would be strengthened through Net Plus?
Yeah, I think that is missing for me. I'm not sure, Matt may have more finger on the pulse there. But for me, that's missing. And I do think that would be important and key aspect to actually build a network, understand the various uses. And also, because this tool extends for students out into the workforce, it's not just that they learn these methods in class and use the tool and learn it in class, but they also then take it into the workplace in their field of architecture as architects, as designers. And so it's relevant, I think, in a lot of ways. And for me, it's hard to imagine other institutions not finding value in that sort of full continuum of use.
All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Matt, you work more on the procurement contracting side. And how do you think the process with contracting with Miro might have been facilitated easier if it had been in Net Plus?
If it had been a Net Plus service, I certainly wouldn't have had to rewrite it. So that's the first part. That's just advantageous. I think I want to touch on just a couple of things that Judy mentioned, which I think is a reason why Miro would be great for Net Plus. One of the things that we discovered in the process was that we had an understanding at Carnegie Mellon that we thought it was going to be used in these certain disciplinary areas. When we did the first review of usage, it came back much higher than we ever anticipated. So it's being used widely on campus. I would say most people are kicking the tires with it and trying to determine what it does, because it just does things differently. It's not like other platforms because it came out of a commercial setting. So what happens is Miro was a commercial, basically not being sold to higher ed when Carnegie Mellon found it. And as a result of that, what would have happened if Miro had gone to Internet 2 first is in the Net Plus program, right? They would have been vetted, single sign-on would have been introduced, FERPA would have been introduced, accessibility would have been introduced, all those issues that we do like in the cloud scorecard, right? Which I know Miro is an early adopter of the cloud scorecard and gone in and done some stuff. So a lot of the SOC 2, a lot of the security, all those issues that we talk about in Net Plus would have been solved. Instead, what we get sometimes in Carnegie Mellon, and what makes my job great, because I am part of the Office of General Counsel, makes my job great, is that I get to see these vendors at the first blush, and I get to try to convince them that they need to get into higher ed. And if they need to get into higher ed, the key to get into higher ed, I always tell them the first thing they should do is do single sign-on, go to In Common, and then get in front of Net Plus. And so I think that that's what made it easy. I mean, we had to, I had to educate them with regard to FERPA, why it was FERPA data, why it was FERPA information, why the student exchanges, why the professors looking at the grades and the boards, trying to figure that out. That was all new to them. And what I saw was, I didn't see reluctance on the front end, but I saw sort of just kind of dipping the toe in the water and trying to figure out what was going on. So over the course of negotiations, and I could be real frank and blunt here because Miro knows this, we basically cut off communication with them because we didn't think we were going to be able to cut a deal. They then came back and sort of reinitiated the process. And they said, look, we've taken a look at stuff. We've gone and looked at ourselves internally. And now we want to look at that. And all of a sudden their agreement went from not having certain things to having FERPA and to having other stuff. So they saw the idea. At the same time, as Judy was mentioning, right, because we have single sign-on with Miro. And one of the interesting parts was that just about the time that Eberly, right, because I support the Eberly Center, right, the Eberly Center for Teaching and Learning Excellence, that's part of, I support what Judy does from the legal side. But one of the interesting parts was right before we inked the deal with Miro, our campus facilities and design folks come and go, we can't talk to our architects, our designers, our engineers, because they're talking about Miro. We got to get Miro. How are we going to get Miro? And Judy's able to go, hey, I have it. You got to pay me for it. But we were able to sort of turn that tide so that it gave us a great use case going back to Miro and saying, look, we know you're in commercial. You want to have more people graduate who know how to use this, because then they're going to take it with you. You could talk about all those other sort of project management softwares. There's like 1,000 of them, right? It's the alphabet soup of how you're going to communicate outside your email. But what I think Miro does is it adds layers as to what you can do. And that's the difference. So if it's in the Net Plus program, then all the hard work I did, you guys get for free as a member of the community, right? Or at least the stuff I couldn't get, I have more support going, yeah, we're going to want that. We need more stuff. And so that's really what makes it run. What makes it run for us at Carnegie Mellon is that if we can bring a supplier to Internet 2, and we can get them into the cloud scorecard, we can get them in front of other members of the community, right? We could start to talk about what this does beyond what Miro even may have thought. And not a lot of suppliers do this over the course of time, but Miro now has geared up, right? Because they saw an opportunity here. They saw a marketplace that they could get into. And so they geared up. They put in place people just to talk to higher ed, people who are going to understand what higher ed is telling them, so that the commercial application folks aren't saying, well, we're not going to go down that road. We're not going to do that. So I think that they're making a real commitment for education. And as Judy had indicated, it fits in really well with the pedagogy of what Carnegie Mellon is trying to teach. I think it fits in really well with how the administrators function. And I certainly think it would fit in really well in just basic communications amongst different units. Whether it's a faculty meeting, I'm sure that most campuses now are so collaborative that sometimes you just need a collaborative tool that, and Carnegie Mellon, we're open environments, so you can use just about anything. But if somebody has a tool that can fit all the spaces, then all of a sudden the faculty start to communicate better, and now you have collaborative programs. So that's what I think really makes Miro work. And I think that that's the message to Internet 2, is that once you adopt the cloud scorecard, once you adopt the fact that you want to go down this road, at that point in time, the Net Plus program is the next step. And I think that would be beneficial to the members, to the community by far, because I think it's a good tool. It's better than, it does what it does better than anything else trying to get its way there.
That's great. It sounds like, Matt, you and Judy have done a lot of the work already that would happen in a service evaluation. So you've made it easy for others to join Carnegie Mellon in that process to kind of finish off some of the gaps that might still exist to make it a full Net Plus service. Is there anything on there that you would hope to gain that would, in working with your colleagues from other campuses that might benefit Carnegie Mellon down the road too?
I do. I think what the Net Plus community brings to the table is the fact that it's a marketplace that, Miro has a fair number of other members now that are very interested in. And so there's other schools other than us saying, hey, this is something that we should look at Internet 2. I think what it does is, by getting them in the Net Plus program, it sort of makes it easier to make the case statement, to make it easier to procure. All of a sudden, where the commercial, and look, you go out and try to buy a commercial license for anything, you're not going to get it as cheap as you're going to get it in higher ed, right? And what it does is it lays the groundwork, sort of the groundwork that we've gotten to at this point in time. Internet 2 brings it across the finish line. and basically says, okay, now that you do it this way, here's how we actually price things. I mean, I've had conversations with Miro about how they should price it, right? And I go, well, you get all done. Some people price it per iPad, some people price it this way, some people price it. I go, there's a lot of different ways to price it. The bottom line is you got to price it less. And they want to do that. They want to meet what the higher ed community is looking at so that they can have that broad exposure and they can use it and more folks will use it. So I think they're very receptive to the idea. I mean, considering where they were when we first approached them in the middle of the semester, and probably spring semester, right, in 20, Judy, probably right at the front end of the pandemic.
Well, we were trying to negotiate during fall. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to get it. Yeah.
Summer, fall, right at the beginning.
Yeah. And so, where they were and where they've gotten to, I think that they want to be a partner in higher ed. And I think that it just really is. It's like it's the cross of time, and I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, but to that timeline, we weren't able to get them in until that spring after the beginning of COVID. So that's a long period of time, and our faculty in those disciplines of architecture, design, HCI, we're kind of suffering as a result. If we can not have other institutions face that same dilemma, that would be great. And again, yes, COVID to some degree is calmer, but we still have online courses. Other institutions still have online courses, probably will persist in that. And also it is useful in the face-to-face, according to these folks, and uses that I'm aware of and that I've engaged in myself. It is quite relevant even during face-to-face times.
Yeah, Judy brings up a great point there, because that was one of the things. Miro did really well by us. They kept extending the 30-day free trial to the end of the semester. And then finally was like, okay, that's enough, fellas. Either you're in or you're out. And so we did a hard look at that point in time with them, right? We went back to the faculty and said, hey, we're coming on campus in the spring. People are going to be in your room. Do we need this anymore? And they're like, yeah, we have to have it. And that's sort of what turned for us and turned for them at the same time, I think. And so when it became an on-premises tool where you could, you could use it even regardless of the fact that you were remote. You didn't have to be remote. It sort of spans that bridge. I think it's just it was time, and they were ready to jump in with both feet and gave us the information that we needed to move forward.
Well, we appreciate you, Matt and Judy, for sharing that story and laying the groundwork for the rest of the community, perhaps to expand this program through NetPlus. And as you mentioned, Matt, a resource that the community has is the cloud scorecard now, because Miro is participating there in the working group, even as a vendor representative. So the community can look up that kind of critical information in the cloud scorecard to help them in the procurement process in the meantime. And they can also go to the Miro website to learn more about the whiteboard functionalities and tools that are available through Miro. As always at NetPlus, we appreciate input from the community on potential NetPlus candidate services, whether it's Miro or any others out there in the community, any other technologies that you're looking to use that would scale across various universities. And we welcome you to reach out to us at netplus@internet2.edu. So thank you, Matt and Judy. And we look forward to hearing more about how the experience progresses and sharing some more of those use cases. Have a good day.
Thank you, Tara.
Thanks.